The basic question, can Americans be forced to buy health care insurance, will face the country's top judicial authority. The Supreme Court will soon be poring over President Obama's health care law known as the Affordable Care Act. And just taking this on makes it the biggest in years and sweeping impacts possibly for all Americans. According to healthcare.com or .gov, the key features of the law include rights and protections, insurance choices, insurance costs, assistance for seniors, and tax credits and programs for employers. Opponents, including 26 states, say Congress went too far by requiring nearly all Americans to buy health insurance. And all Republican presidential candidates oppose it. Most Republicans have dubbed it Obamacare. Joining me now in the studio is attorney Carl Cecere with Hankinson LLP. He has expertise in constitutional law, and Texas is one of 26 states that filed that lawsuit against the act. What do you think is going to happen? What are the odds that the Supreme Court will rule this constitutional or unconstitutional?
Well, you can never give a strict over-under on what's going to happen to the Supreme Court. Anything could happen, but I think the challengers to the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare face an uphill challenge with this law.
Why is that?
Well, while conservatives outnumber liberals on the court 5-4, and five is the magic number, it's all it takes to win. Even the court's conservatives seem to have a vested interest in a kind of broad interpretation of the governmental powers here, and that could mean that the mandate and the other aspects on appeal are likely to be held constitutional.
Well, what about charges? And again, you're an expert in this. People say it's socialist. Constitutionally, what about that?
Well, there's no socialist or unsocialist provisions in the United States Constitution. Now, the key question is the government's power to be found in the Constitution, or has it gone outside of the authorities that are vested in there? It's an open question. It's going to be one of the hardest cases that the court's heard in a long time for that.
How long do you expect it to take to make a decision? When do you think we'll see a decision?
Well, they will hear oral arguments in March, and the court has until June to make a decision. That's when their term ends, and it'll probably be one of the last opinions they issue, probably at the very end of June. If
it were declared unconstitutional, what would happen then with states? Would Texas be able to do what it wants? What happens then?
Well, that's a huge question. At the very core of the case is, if part of it's ruled unconstitutional, what's going to happen to the rest? And only a portion of the Affordable Care Act is actually on appeal. Only 2 provisions on a mammoth health care law. So one of the questions that the court's got to ask is how much of the law is going to go down and how much is going to stay, and that's completely open. And yes, it would free up Texas at least partly if part of it was ruled unconstitutional.
And if part of it is ruled unconstitutional, the part that isn't even on appeal, what does that include for people who may not know?
Well, it includes a number of different things. There are provisions allowing people to get together and companies get together to increase their bargaining power with insurance companies. There are rules on what employers must carry for health insurance. There's a important exclusion, a rule that prevents health insurers from excluding people on the basis of pre-existing conditions, and there are other provisions too.
And those are not even on appeal?
Those are not on appeal, but they could fall if the law goes down.
Thank you very much. Complicated subject. Appreciate your insight.